Have you ever walked into your room, looked around, and just sighed? Not because you're tired, but because the space feels like it's pressing in on you. Too many things, too much noise. You try to tidy up, but somehow, stuff keeps piling back. The drawers are full, the shelves are packed, and even though you keep organizing, it never really feels done. You're not lazy. You're not messy. The truth is, most of us were never taught how to create space that actually supports us. Not just a clean room, but a room that makes you breathe easier just by being in it. That's where the Japanese approach to minimalism comes in. It's not just about owning fewer things. It's about being more intentional with what you do keep and how your space makes you feel. It's less Pinterest perfect and more peace of mind. In this video, I'm going to share 5 simple but powerful ideas from Japanese minimalism that you can start using today. You don't need to throw out all your stuff. You don't need to paint everything white, and you definitely don't need to become someone you're not. These are practical shifts, things you can do one at a time, that will help you create space with purpose. Whether you're brand new to minimalism or you've tried it before and got stuck, this might just be the perspective shift you've been looking for. So if you're ready to breathe a little deeper in your own home, let's get into it. 1. Choose a theme for your space. Let me ask you something. Have you ever tried to clean your space, but no matter how much you tidy up, it still feels kind of off? Like everything has been wiped down, the shelves are organized, the laundry's folded, but somehow the room still feels chaotic or heavy? That used to be me all the time. I'd spend hours organizing, only to realize a few days later that things looked cluttered again. Not because I didn't try hard enough, but because I was missing one really important thing: clarity. Here's what I didn't know then, but I want to share with you now. Every space in your home should have a purpose, a clear, intentional purpose. And I don't mean a vague one like, this is my bedroom. I mean a specific guiding theme for what that space is for and how you want to feel in it. This idea is actually at the heart of Japanese minimalism. It's not just about removing stuff, it's about making sure every space in your home serves you, that it supports your lifestyle, your mindset, your peace. When a space has too many functions fighting for attention, like trying to be a bedroom, an office, a gym, and a storage unit all at once, it becomes visually and mentally overwhelming. You're not just living in the space, you're mentally juggling everything it represents. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, my bedroom was a mess. And not just because it was untidy. It had a desk where I worked all day, a TV I never watched but felt guilty about removing, piles of books I told myself I'd read someday, and even a yoga mat permanently rolled out in the corner. I thought I was being efficient, but in reality, I had turned my bedroom into a cluttered mix of intentions: sleep, work, entertainment, self-improvement, all mashed together in one tiny room. And every time I stepped into that room, I didn't feel calm. I felt like my to-do list was waiting for me. Then I came across a simple but powerful idea from Japanese interior philosophy. Decide what the space is really for, and let everything else go. So I asked myself, what do I want this room to do for me? And the answer was clear. I wanted it to be a place of rest, a retreat, a space where my brain and body knew it was okay to slow down. That shift in mindset changed everything. I moved the desk into the living room. I donated some books I knew I wasn't going to read. I rolled up the yoga mat and kept it in the closet. I even took the TV out, something I'd been putting off for months. The result? That same room, without a single renovation or new piece of furniture, felt completely different. Lighter, softer. Like it finally had one job, and it was doing it well. The beauty of assigning a clear purpose to your space is that it automatically helps you decide what belongs and what doesn't. When you know that your bedroom is for rest, it becomes easier to say no to things that distract from that. When your living room is for connection, maybe having people over, reading, or just relaxing, it becomes easier to let go of clutter that doesn't serve those moments. This doesn't mean every room in your house can only serve one function, especially if you live in a small space. But even in multi-use areas, you can create zones of intention. A tiny studio apartment can still have a corner for sleep, a nook for reading, and a spot for meals, each with their own mood and purpose, even if they're just a few feet apart. So, if you're just starting to simplify your life and your home, here's a gentle first step. Choose one room, or even just one area, and ask yourself, what do I want this space to give me? Is it calm, focus, energy, rest? Once you know that, you'll start to see which items belong, and which ones are just noise. And honestly, that kind of clarity, that's where minimalism really begins. 2. Don't be afraid of empty space. Let's talk about something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable when they start decluttering. Empty space. You know that weird moment after you've cleared off a surface, maybe your desk or your kitchen counter, and there's just nothing there? For a second, it feels kind of nice, but then the voice creeps in. It looks unfinished, or I should probably put something there. Maybe a bowl, a plant, a candle, anything really, just so it doesn't feel so empty. But here's the thing, empty space is not the enemy. In fact, when it comes to minimalism, especially the Japanese approach, space isn't something to fear. It's something to welcome. In Japanese aesthetics, there's a beautiful concept called ma. It loosely translates to negative space, but it's more than just physical emptiness. It's the space between things, the pause, the breath. It's what gives shape to everything else. Imagine music without the silence between the notes, or a painting where every inch is covered with color. Without space, nothing has room to shine. And that idea applies to your home too. Empty space isn't a sign that something is missing. It's a sign that you're giving your mind, your body, and your life a little more room to breathe. Now, I get it. Especially in Western cultures, we've kind of been taught that more is more. More decorations, more pillows, more gallery walls. We fill up shelves with souvenirs, books, trinkets, sometimes because we love them, but often because it feels weird to leave the shelf blank. But that visual clutter adds up. Every item you see takes up mental energy, whether you realize it or not. In fact, there's real science behind this. Studies from Princeton University found that physical clutter competes for your attention. It limits your brain's ability to focus and process information. That mental fog you feel when you walk into a messy room? It's real. And sometimes it's caused by simply having too much to look at. I remember clearing off the top of my dresser one day. It used to have candles, skincare bottles, a jewelry tray, a small plant, and, for some reason, a mug full of pens. Don't ask me why. I cleared it all off, wiped it down, and then didn't put anything back. At first, it felt weird, like I'd forgotten to finish something. But after a day or two, that spot became my favorite part of the room. It was just open, clean. It didn't demand anything from me. And every time I saw it, I felt a tiny sense of peace I hadn't realized I was missing. That's the power of space. Of course, I'm not saying every surface in your home should be empty, but I am saying it's okay, even beautiful, to leave room. Not every shelf needs to be full. Not every wall needs art. You don't need to hang something just because the space feels bare. Let it be bare. Let it rest. Think about a traditional Japanese room, the kind you might see in a ryokan or a quiet tea house. The simplicity, the openness, the clean lines. That space invites you to slow down. It calms your nervous system. It gives your brain a chance to reset. That's not an accident. That's by design. And the best part? You can start small. Choose just one spot in your home, maybe a nightstand, a coffee table, or even a corner of your kitchen counter, and intentionally leave it clear. Not messy, not half-finished, just clear. Every time your eyes land there, notice how it feels. Notice the difference. Over time, those little pockets of space become quiet reminders to breathe, to pause, to not fill every moment or every shelf just because you can. Minimalism isn't about taking away joy. It's about taking away noise so the joy that is there can finally be seen. 3. Be careful with furniture. It can be a trap. Let's talk about something that sneaks up on a lot of us when we're trying to simplify our homes. Furniture. Now, I know, furniture doesn't seem like the problem, right? Most of us think of clutter as the little stuff, random decor, old clothes, gadgets we don't use. But here's what a lot of people don't realize. Furniture can quietly become one of the biggest clutter traps in your home. And not just because it takes up physical space, but because of the way we use it. Or rather, what we hide inside it. Let me explain. Have you ever found yourself thinking, "This room is a mess. Maybe I just need more storage?" So you go out, buy another dresser, a few baskets, maybe a shelving unit. At first, it feels like a smart solution. You put everything away and the room looks tidy again. But then, a few weeks later, it's full. The surfaces are cluttered again. And suddenly, the storage that was supposed to help has just become another place for clutter to hide. I've been there too. There was a time when my solution to every mess was, I need another drawer, or a better organizer, or a bigger bookshelf. But all I was really doing was creating more places to delay decision-making. Instead of asking, do I actually need this? I was asking, where can I put this? And that's the trap. When we add more furniture without being intentional, it doesn't encourage us to own less. It gives us permission to keep more. To stash things out of sight rather than dealing with whether they're actually serving us. This is something Japanese minimalism really challenges. In a traditional Japanese home, you'll notice there's very little excess furniture. The rooms are open, breathable, flexible. A table might be folded away after a meal, a futon rolled up after sleep. Furniture isn't used to contain clutter, it's used to support living. That's a big mindset shift. And I'm not saying you need to sleep on the floor or give up your sofa. But what I am saying is this. The next time you feel tempted to buy more storage, pause. Ask yourself, if I didn't have this extra shelf or drawer, would I still keep this item? Because when you remove the hiding spots, you're forced to get honest about what you truly want to keep. Another thing to think about is how furniture affects the visual weight of a room. Some pieces might not hold much stuff, but they take up a ton of space visually. Think of a big, bulky armchair you barely sit in, or a massive coffee table that collects junk mail more than anything else. These pieces might not be useful. They just exist because they've always been there, or they fill the space. But what if you didn't need to fill the space? Sometimes, removing one unnecessary piece of furniture can make your entire home feel bigger, even if the square footage hasn't changed. It gives your space more flow, more light, more freedom. Here's something I started doing that made a huge difference. I walk through my home and ask myself, if I were moving into this place today, would I bring this piece of furniture with me? If the answer is no, I take a closer look. Sometimes that leads to donating or selling it. Sometimes it just means rearranging. But either way, it helps me see my home with fresh eyes. And listen, I know furniture is an investment, financially, emotionally, and practically. We grow attached to our stuff. But the goal isn't to have an empty house. It's to have a house that reflects your life right now. If something no longer fits the way you live, it's okay to let it go. So next time you're tempted to solve a clutter problem with more furniture, try subtracting instead of adding. You might be surprised at how much space and peace you uncover. 4. Simplify your cleaning process. Let's be honest. The idea of cleaning or decluttering can feel totally overwhelming. Not because we don't want a tidier home, but because the process just feels so big. Like, where do you even start when every drawer, every shelf, and every closet seems like it needs attention? That kind of mental pressure is enough to make anyone say, "I'll deal with it later." And then, later turns into next month. Here's the truth. If decluttering feels exhausting before you've even begun, chances are you're trying to do too much, too fast. And that's where the concept of simplifying the process, not just the stuff, comes in. You don't need to overhaul your whole house in a weekend. In fact, the slower, gentler approach often works better because it doesn't burn you out. One of the best things I learned from Japanese minimalism is that cleaning and decluttering don't have to be treated like a giant project. They can become small, intentional habits that fit into your regular routine. Not this huge mountain you have to climb all at once. There's a great method called the 20-minute rule that I use all the time. It's exactly what it sounds like. Set a timer for 20 minutes and clean just one area. That's it. No pressure to finish a whole room. No expectation to make it perfect. Just one drawer, one shelf, or one small corner. You'd be surprised how much progress you can make when the goal is simply to start, not to finish everything. And honestly, the real value of this approach isn't just in what you clean. It's in how it changes your mindset. When you commit to 20 minutes a day, or even just a few times a week, you stop seeing decluttering as this dreaded event and start seeing it as part of how you take care of yourself and your space. Another technique I love is something called the one-touch rule. The idea is that whenever you pick something up, you deal with it right then. You don't just move it from one spot to another. So if you grab the mail, you sort it immediately. If you try on a shirt and decide not to wear it, you hang it back up instead of tossing it on a chair. It sounds simple, but when you start doing this consistently, your home stays more manageable without any marathon cleaning sessions. And if you're the kind of person who needs a little more structure, try giving yourself small, themed goals. For example, Monday could be bathroom drawer day, Wednesday is pantry shelf, and Friday might be phone photo cleanout. Yes, digital clutter counts too. It's all about breaking the process down into bites you can actually chew. The key here is consistency, not perfection. You don't have to get it all right. You just have to keep showing up. Minimalism, especially in the Japanese tradition, isn't about sudden transformation. It's about slow, intentional refinement, like how a bonsai tree is shaped over time, not rushed, not forced, just gently guided in the right direction. I also want to say this. It's totally okay to feel stuck sometimes. There are days when even 20 minutes feels like too much. On those days, maybe all you do is throw away one expired spice jar, or recycle that stack of old magazines. That still counts. Every small action adds up. So instead of thinking, I have to clean the whole kitchen, what if the question was, what one small thing can I clear today that future me will thank me for? That shift alone makes everything feel lighter. Minimalism isn't just about owning less. It's about doing less of the mental gymnastics we put ourselves through. And when you make the process of decluttering easier, more gentle, and more human, you start to realize this isn't a chore. It's an act of care. 5. Don't aim for perfection. Let's get something straight. Minimalism is not about being perfect. I know, it's easy to scroll through Pinterest or Instagram and feel like everyone who lives a minimalist lifestyle has these pristine, white-walled homes with zero clutter, a single ceramic vase on the table, and sunlight pouring through spotless windows. And while those spaces look peaceful, trying to live up to that kind of aesthetic perfection can actually become its own kind of stress. Minimalism, especially in the Japanese philosophy, was never meant to be a performance. It's not about curating a space that looks minimalist. It's about creating a space that feels right for you, that supports your values, that makes your life easier, lighter, and more intentional. Not colder, not stricter, and definitely not more stressful. One of the biggest mindset shifts you can make, and maybe the most freeing one, is letting go of the idea that everything needs to be done or look a certain way. Your home doesn't need to look like a Muji showroom to be minimalist. You don't need to own exactly 33 items of clothing or declutter your entire life in one dramatic weekend. That's not the goal. The real goal is clarity, function, ease, and that looks different for everyone. There's a Japanese concept called Wabi-Sabi, which embraces the beauty of imperfection. A chipped bowl, a slightly crooked painting, a hand-sewn pillow that's not quite symmetrical. These flaws are not problems. They're part of what makes something feel human, real, lived in. And that applies to your space too. So if you've been holding off on simplifying because you're waiting until you can do it right, I want to tell you, you already are doing it right. If you've removed one thing that doesn't serve you, that counts. If you've rethought how you use one small area of your home, that's progress. I remember a moment when I caught myself obsessing over my bookshelf. I wanted it to look clean and curated. No mismatched spines, no bent corners, no random trinkets. But the truth is, I love books, and they're not all beautiful. Some are old paperbacks with cracked spines and coffee stains. Some were gifts from people I care about. And one shelf has a framed drawing from my niece that doesn't match anything. But every time I see it, it makes me smile. That shelf might not win any design awards, but it reflects my life. My real, imperfect, meaningful life. And that's what matters. Minimalism isn't a test. You don't fail because you have laundry on the chair or a junk drawer in the kitchen. You don't lose points because your furniture doesn't match or you still haven't gotten around to sorting your digital files. That's just life. It's always shifting, and your version of simplicity will shift too, based on your needs, your season of life, your energy. So instead of aiming for some fixed idea of perfection, what if you asked a different question? Something like, does this space support the kind of life I want today? That's a much better compass. Because some days, the minimalist choice is removing 5 things. Other days, it's simply not adding more. Give yourself the grace to experiment, to evolve, to pause. Japanese minimalism is deeply rooted in balance, not rules. It teaches that spaces are most beautiful when they're not just empty, but alive with purpose. So don't worry if your home isn't picture perfect. Worry about whether it feels peaceful, whether it gives you space to rest, to think, to breathe. And if it does, even just a little bit more than before, you're already on the right path. So, if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it's that minimalism doesn't have to be extreme, or cold, or rigid. You don't need to toss everything you own or turn your home into a blank canvas. What really matters is creating space that supports you, your energy, your peace, your real, everyday life. We talked about 5 simple but powerful ideas today. Choosing a purpose for each space, embracing empty areas without trying to fill them, being mindful of how furniture can become a hiding place for clutter, simplifying the actual process of tidying up, and finally, letting go of perfection as the end goal. If you're feeling inspired, but maybe still a little unsure where to start, just pick one small thing. Seriously, one drawer, one shelf, or even just one item you no longer need. That's enough. Let the momentum build from there. You don't need to do it all at once, and I'd love to hear from you. What's one space in your home that feels off right now? Or what's one change you're thinking about making after watching this? Drop it in the comments. Let's make this a space where we can all share, learn, and support each other. If this video gave you something to think about, helped you shift your mindset, or just made you feel a little lighter, go ahead and give it a like and consider subscribing for more content like this. Thanks for spending this time with me. Go gently, go slowly. And remember, minimalism isn't about having less. It's about making room for more of what matters.